Anytime a Google update rolls out, it can be very traumatic for you and your website. Sometimes you come through unscathed, sometimes you might end up with a 50-60% traffic drop, or even worse. In this video today, I'm going to show you how you can basically go through and diagnose the kinds of issues that might have actually led to your decline. This applies for soft penalties, updates, and any other time you've noticed a significant traffic drop within a short amount of time. Now, what most of us do when a Google update rolls out is we start looking at, videos like this, everyone else, big commentators in the industry, all talking about what's going on. The issue with that is, while it might give you a broad idea of what's going on, it's very difficult to tailor that to your specific website. Often there might be some trend going on, but it doesn't actually have any relevance to what's going on with your traffic. So in this video today, I'm going to show you exactly how you can diagnose with first-hand data exactly what's going on with your website. I'd actually like to start this video with just some insights from someone who's been in the industry quite a while, and basically my personal history of Google updates. Because what you've got to remember is, even though updates can feel really traumatic, I really like to hammer home this idea that your website and your organic traffic is your evergreen empire, it's your digital real estate. So you might not have much control around a lot of external factors. So if you had actual real estate, you might find the boiler breaks down and costs you a fortune, or there's an incident in the local area which affects property prices, things like that. But longer term, you still have that asset, you still get paid. Now, I know if you've had an 80% traffic drop, that might seem bleak, but at the same time, let me just show you what I've seen over my personal history. So this is a website I built years ago, way back at the end of 2019. Now, at the time, now this was never a particularly high traffic website, but the conversion was really good. And I managed to find some really good affiliate programs. So for Amazon Associates, only 30% of the revenue came from Amazon Associates, even though it made up the majority of sales. The rest, the other 60%, was basically between 2 to 3 private affiliate programs that were paying 25-50% commission rates on luxury products. So just a general word of advice there, really focus on that, maximizing revenue per user rather than building a massive traffic website and hoping to monetize it with some low ticket Amazon or something like that. So right in the beginning, I had various ups and downs, but it was in December 2020, loads of people were actually complaining about an update then that actually wrecked their traffic. And again, loads of people saying they lost half their traffic overnight. Somehow, my traffic absolutely took off. So you can see $6,000 per month in traffic value, 10,000 visitors per month. So couldn't really reason with it. Somehow everyone else went down and I went up, and couldn't really see the logic there. But at the same time, what I always caution people is that generally over time you see the latest update does tend to backtrack on a lot of the moves of the previous update. So the people who go down will often come up again, and the people who go up will come down again. And that's exactly what happened here. So come May, there was then another update, and it brought me back down to more normal levels. Now you can see over time, this is pretty smooth graph over here. The anomaly is actually this spike. So that basically tells me I was boosted for a short period of time by some sort of algorithmic weirdness. So the long-term trend still continued to be shallow, but up. So that's just one word of caution, in that if you find your traffic has tanked, it's probably not going to be permanent. There's a good chance that Google often gets it wrong, and this update especially seems wild. So anytime you have had a drop, yes, obviously you do want to try and fix it, but you can also hold out that the next update is probably actually going to put you back a lot of where you were a lot of the time. Not guaranteed, but that's just some peace of mind there. And don't forget, you've then got the update after that, and after that. So I know that's not great if you're not currently making money, but you can hold out some hope there. Now, I was able to sell this website for 43 times its monthly profit because of just because of the quality. So really good content. I handwrote it all myself at the time. Really good affiliate programs. Wasn't dependent on one like Amazon. So overall, even though it wasn't a massive website, it was clearly very high value. It was a good, sustainable source. So that was in around February last year. Now, as you can see, traffic had been declining. and I had Empire Flippers basically telling me they could get me this really nice multiple for it. And I thought, to be honest, I don't really care about this site anymore. I haven't been working on it, and it seems to be declining. If you have been in the website flipping business, you'll know you kind of always want to catch an uptrend rather than a downtrend. So when I found out I could get a 43x multiplier, I thought, why not? Of course, the minute I'd sold it, it then took off. So I was watching it then, particularly at this point, October 2022, went up almost to a historic high. And I was seeing keywords I've been trying to rank for months suddenly breaking into the top 5. So I'm sure my buyer actually got a lot of ROI at that point. But the interesting thing that I always like to, I like to refer back to this website regularly, because having monitored it, it doesn't seem like the new owner actually did much work to it. I know they changed the hosting, a couple of other back-end optimizations, but generally in terms of content, links, they didn't change anything. And I know that because this was just around the time I launched my link building agency. At the time, I was actually going to take it off sale because I wanted to use it as a test case for my link building team. And that's when suddenly the deal went through, money came in, and I couldn't reverse it at that point. So I did pitch the new owner saying, would you like me to, because at the time he was interested. But at the time he said he wants to basically hoard the cash. He wants the asset to pay for itself before he starts scaling it. So because of that, he didn't actually invest much in it. So because of that, I've kept my eye on it quite closely on what happens with a good website like that if you don't actually change much. And for a long time, it carried on really, really well. So we can see it climbed up in October 22. There was then a dip. So Ahrefs does tell us all these updates that are going on. So it looks like the October 2022 spam update really hit this site at that time. So it went from a peak of nearly 7,000 visitors to 2,000 visitors. But again, within a very short space of time, looks like there's another update there. So December 2022 link spam update. It then came up again, back up to 6,000 per month. So what I'm trying to tell you here is just, even though it's uncomfortable, you can just sort of step back and remember Google is up and down all the time. Do you monitor your stock portfolio on a daily basis? You really shouldn't, because you have that volatility up and down all the time. But now, more recently, obviously, the long-term trend is this traffic has declined. So we were peaking probably around the middle of 2022, so just after I'd sold it. And since then, it's basically been declining ever since, which is to be expected if you don't actually touch a website, you don't update it, you don't build more links. Even though we like to see SEO as a really passive traffic source, you still need to work at it a bit so Google continues to see you as relevant. Not forgetting that you've got constantly increasing competition, which is why you want to be basically constantly building backlinks to stay ahead of your competition, because the chances are your competitors are actually going to outrank you if they're doing link building as well, which they probably are. So you need higher volume and higher quality of backlinks in order to maintain that prime position. But the reason I bring it up today is it seems like this site was very heavily hit with the most recent Google update. So it's now come down to just 650 visitors per month. And that's mid-September, quite squarely. So we're already having a bit of a decline. And then it seemed like at this point, it just crashed. Now, here's another website that's been hit very heavily in the September update. We can see that because it's growing consistently, apart from a bit of a blip there. But right up until middle of July, pulled back a little bit. And then we can see middle of September, we know the Google update was the 14th of September. So suddenly it came crashing down from 7,500 visitors, now right down to 3,600. And the scary thing about Ahrefs is, because the database only updates so often, we don't know how far this is going to plummet. The actual analytics results, they could have lost a lot of traffic overnight, and that could take a long time to actually show up in Ahrefs. So often with clients, when I'm diagnosing these kinds of issues, it's good to just compare actual analytics with the Ahrefs result, because this only represents keywords in the Ahrefs index, which can take a while to actually refresh. So we basically need to work out what's going on here. Now you can also apply this to traffic spikes as well, whichever way, whether it's down or up, it's the same process. Now for that, we need to go to top pages. And then what I do is I sort by change. If we want to take the peak, so we know the peak was 15th of July. So this is actually already set up that way, but I go to custom date and set that to the peak, because that way we can work out where have the biggest drops been. Because quite often it's only a couple of pages that have actually dropped. If you noticed all your pages have dropped significantly, then that's obviously very worrying. It's also quite unusual. Normally, to have a significant drop like this, it's normally just a few pages that have been affected. It can provide some relief if you found you've suffered an update, because quite often it might be your overall traffic has dropped, but your actual monetized pages are still actually doing really, really well. If not, then further investigation is required. So now we sort by change because we want to see the biggest drops. Now, as with all these filters, the data's a bit bad because now we're seeing all these really weird 100% drops. So I now put in a minimum traffic. So let's say from 100. And that way we'll get a view of just the biggest movers, but the biggest movers that actually had traffic before, rather than this page, which had one traffic and now doesn't have any traffic. So it's had a 100% drop, where we need better data than that. What was performing and is not performing anymore. So here we can see examples of that. So this page, 70% traffic drop, 80%. That's the value actually, but yeah, same thing here. So 80, 70% drops. And we can also see the position movements here. So let's have a look at this one. This is in the spirituality niche. Now, what we've got to remember is Google, again, like with all Google, is correlational. It's nothing to do with, there are no hard winners and hard losers necessarily. Your traffic hasn't just disappeared. The volume is still there. It's just going somewhere else. So we need to find out how Google has rearranged the search results, because there's always winners and losers, basically. So what we actually want to look at, I can already get a pretty good idea of what's going on here by the fact that Reddit has come up number one. Now, I say, obviously, don't listen to all the gurus, but there has been a lot of speculation about how Reddit and Quora have been unfairly promoted in the latest update. But anyway, if we scroll down here, now the position history, a lot of people skip past this. It looks just a load of lines, basically. But actually, if you're diagnosing any sort of penalty, update, any major traffic increase or decline, this is your most useful tool, because you can go back years and years and actually work out the positioning in the top 10. So from this, you can work out if there are new competitors that have sprung out of nowhere, if someone has been at number 3 for a long time and then suddenly jumped up, and similarly for yourself, if you've dropped down. What I'm noticing across all these graphs is within the last couple of months, there's been rapidly increasing competition, so much more lines going up and down. And I think that's with the rise of AI content. Plus, also, we've got this Google volatility going on. So at the time, we'd have a few competitors coming in here and there. But suddenly, the last couple of months, it's gone wild. So we want to see what's going on here. So we can actually move this down to just the last 30 days. I'm going to go slightly longer than that, as we are now more than a month since the update. So if we go back, we know the drop happened in the middle of September. So we're wanting to look here. So we had Wisdom Tavern at number 1, Access New Age at number 2, Astrobyte at number 3. Now what happens after the update? 20th September. So we've had teaandrosemary.com come out of nowhere. Oh no, they were at number 4 before. So they've jumped up to number 1. Then we've actually had a Tumblr blog come right up. blacksunscorpio.com.tumblr.com. Was that even there before? It was, but it was right down at number 7. So the fact we have Web 2.0s like that, so Tumblr, Medium, anything like that, that tells us that authority was probably an issue here. And this goes, again, for the Reddit and the Quora hypothesis, that actually Google is no longer looking at niche blogs with subject matter expertise and looking more at high-powered sites, potentially with user-generated content. That has been more of a speculation lately, that Google is favoring user-generated content for its so-called helpful content analysis. So what can we learn from that? Potentially, backlinks are more important than ever. DR, DA, whatever you want to call it. Tumblr, Medium, they're all massive websites. So I've done loads on my channel talking about Parasite SEO, where you can actually leverage the power of a powerful site like that in order to rank. And at the moment, that does seem to be working really, really well, which is very frustrating if you're an actual site owner. What else have we got going on? So we just want to compare and contrast basically. If we look at today, then we've got Reddit at number 1. So where did they come from? They were at number 6 on the 5th of October. They were at number 10 on the 27th of September. And if we go back before the update, then they're at number 12. In fact, arguably there's a bit of volatility around the 12th anyway, so if we go back to 5th of September, then they're at 11. So Reddit, page 2 before the update, number 1 after the update. So what else can we see? You also want to be looking at things like relevance. So it can be, remember Google goes through, each Google update is basically like a different phase where different signals get different weightings. So it might be that previously it was looking for the exact relevance. So even if you're a low authority blog, but you had perfectly targeted that keyword, then you were the most relevant result and you went at number 1. But then there could be an update where suddenly this big authority site that merely mentioned your exact subject once, but still mentioned it and has a lot of power, and then they go above. And so those two will interchange over successive updates for a long time. That's just the fact of it, unfortunately. So the fundamentals don't really change. You still want to increase your DR with high quality backlinks. I do have an agency available should you wish. Then there's also the quality of content. And that's 90% of SEO. Good quality content, good quality links. The rest of it you don't really have that much control over, annoyingly. So some of us have been speculating that actually if Reddit and Quora are getting so much advantage, then it might be worth actually doubling down on those platforms. If Google wants user-generated content, then that might be the future of SEO, actually having more impact on those platforms. So what else can we see here? So Tea and Rosemary seem to have had a big boost. So they were at number 1 before Reddit. Before the update, they were at number 4. So there's a good sign there that whatever Tea and Rosemary were doing, it's working really well. So at that point, I might go into their individual page and look at their page layout, their site structure. How does that compare with the site we're looking at? And again, it's just painting by numbers. What's gone up and what are they doing that's different to what you're doing? Then Astrology Byte, that seemed to be quite prominent, number 3 before the update. After the update, still at number 2. And then 5th of October, down to number 5. And number 4. So it seemed, and what about this Black Sun Scorpio Tumblr blog? So that was at number 5 just after the update. If we go right back before the update, they're at number 7. So already the fact that we've got Reddit and a Tumblr blog that were low down on page 1, maybe even top of page 2, and they've come right up to the top 5, that's already going to have a really big impact on search results. So at this point, once I've identified a clear winner, I will just go through and try and work out what kind of things are they doing that we're not. So overall, this doesn't even squarely address the search term what I was saying about relevance. So this is the search term Lilith conjunct Venus synastry. And it seems like both Reddit and Tea and Rosemary are talking about Black Moon specifically. So somehow that's being rewarded, so that might be something worth testing. Otherwise, this article isn't actually about that. That search term is only one section. So we're looking for Lilith conjunct Venus. So this is going through all the Lilith aspects. So eventually there's going to be, here we are, Lilith conjunct Venus synastry, and there's a paragraph there. So it seems like that's had an advantage. So longer form article addressing everything. This is always the big balancing act with SEO, whether you want to do one super, this has been going for years. Do you do the super article that covers everything and that search term is just a part of that article? Or do you do one article specifically for each search term? And like I say, with different Google updates, you get different answers. So it looks like at the moment, the super article is actually winning. Also tend to look at things like page speed, and this site is actually full of ads, which is interesting. Anything like what the design is like, if there's loads of, is it too salesy or is it less salesy? Things like the authorship. So you really want to look at things like expertise, authority, and trust, especially in the medical niche. Have they got different verifications of different levels of medical reviewing, things like that? Have they got citations at the bottom, things like that? So keep on asking that question. What are they doing that we're not doing? And it all comes back to this graph where you can see who's won and who's losing. And you want to try and focus on those winners. Having said that, it's very unlikely you're actually going to get that clear an answer, not without spending a huge amount of time on it and looking at loads of different search results. So obviously there's pretty obvious things like the content freshness. Are they updating it regularly? You can use tools to see how much this page has changed. You need to dig down and work out how valuable is this search traffic to you. You could easily spend weeks analyzing these kinds of search results, trying to work out what a particular update has done. But what you've got to remember is there's often the answers are quite unclear. Google's this massive machine, and it's going to affect different websites in different ways. Like I've said, sometimes you win, sometimes you lose. I think the important thing is you need to pull back and focus on the fundamentals. So don't just declare SEO is dead, whatever. If you can see quick wins, then by all means test out those wins. So in that case, we noticed that Black Moon specifically seemed to be getting a more prominent position in search results. So you can test out little things like that. But generally, it really depends on how valuable your traffic actually is. If you've got a really high ticket niche and you've got quite a small website that the search results have been hit quite heavily, then it probably is worth really honing down on your core search terms and working out how can you promote those again. But if you've got more of a broader website and you've had a traffic drop, then it's probably not going to be worth analyzing every single page, only to find, and this is what you've got to bear in mind, the next Google update could completely shake up everything again. So don't go down the rabbit hole too hard of trying to fix everything when it might not be in your control. And it could well be that Google is doing some weird stuff, and that's all going to be reversed in the next update, sometimes quite soon. If there are clear fundamentals you're not doing to do with things like authorship, page quality, backlinks, then these are the kinds of fundamentals which, over a long period of time, will keep you more shored up against updates. So Google clearly likes high authority websites, so keep on building up your DR. Don't forget we do provide high quality backlinks as a subscription model should you be interested. Then we also have things like the content quality and relevance, making sure you cover every single topic within your niche, so you can basically become the Wikipedia of your niche. So high authority, lots of content, and keeping that content fresh and up to date. Those are the kinds of fundamentals which will help you resist future Google updates.